My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Magnolia. And this review will have a few spoilers, so there's your warning. But as you'll see over the next few weeks, I'm not a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I think his movies are very well crafted, but I also think most of them are pretty boring and they don't have much rewatchability to me. This movie is easily his best movie. Like, it's not even close. It is just so painfully obvious to me that this is Paul Thomas Anderson's greatest achievement. This movie is a masterpiece. I love it. I watched it for the first time just a couple years ago, and I've watched it numerous times since. Like, I just find this movie to be so powerful, and I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. But let's begin talking about the performances. And Tom Cruise gives the best performance of his entire career in this movie. He is absolutely phenomenal. He is demonstrating so much range, and he's over the top and funny when he needs to be. He's also a giant asshole when he needs to be. You can sense when his character is pissed off like that, and then when he needs to sell you on the emotion, he delivers. Like, this is such a perfect performance, and he should have won an Oscar for it. Then you've got Julianne Moore, who I think is really great in this movie too. Like, she's not in it as much, but my goodness, there was one scene at a pharmacy where she just blew me away. Really great work by her here. Then you've got Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he's not given the strongest material in the movie, but he still does everything he needs to incredibly well. Jason Robards, who plays Tom Cruise's dad, I think does a really great job as well. There is one 5-minute scene where he just nailed it. Then you've got Philip Baker Hall, and I think he's really great in this movie, especially in the last act. Well, he's pretending to be this good man, but he's still a coward, and he just really nails it. Melinda Dillon, I think, does a really good job, especially in the last act. Then we've got Melora Waters, who I think deserved an Oscar for this movie. She is phenomenal. She's so chaotic and all over the place, but you also just have so much sympathy for her, and she's so sincere at the same time, and by the end, your viewpoint of the character has completely changed, and she just does everything flawlessly. Yeah, really great performance. John C. Reilly, I think, is great in this movie. Maybe his best performance. He's just this naive but this kind-hearted man, and he just is the heart and soul of this movie. William H. Macy, I think, does a really good job as well. Then you've got Jeremy Blackman, who plays Stanley, and I think he's great in this movie. Like, there is some surprising amount of tension in his storyline, and he just nails it. And then you've got Michael Bourne, who plays his dad, and he's just a despicable scumbag, and he does that perfectly as well. So the entire cast is just great on every level. Like, everybody fully delivers. And then we get to the direction by Paul Thomas Anderson, and holy shit, like, this is one of the best crafted movies I've seen in my lifetime. Like, I have to mention the runtime because this movie is 3 hours and 8 minutes long, and it just flies by. I always talk about how Titanic is the best paced movie ever because that movie flies by. This might be the second best paced movie. Like, it never drags. You're always engaged. The pacing for this movie is just remarkable, and Paul just brings this kinetic energy to it, and it never lets up. I also love the musical score by John Bryan. His score helps keeps things moving. So I really appreciate that. I think this movie has some incredible cinematography. And I love the soundtrack in this movie. You've got yourself some good songs by Supertramp, but it's Amy Mann's songs that really stand out. I love Momentum, but Save Me. Flawless song and just utilized so perfectly. And I also love the Wise Up moment. It could have taken me out of it, but it just fully works. Like, this movie takes quite a few big swings, and it's just very big, it's very ambitious, and when you think about how many different characters and ideas it's trying to balance, the fact that it's as good as it is just a miracle. Like, this movie is just made and edited so perfectly. And then we get to the story, and let's just address the elephant, or should I say frog, in the room. The frogs do completely work for me, and it makes perfect sense. Like, this movie makes it clear at the beginning and at the end that it's about the chaotic nature of life. The randomness of absolutely everything. So I think the frogs fit thematically within this movie. And what I love most about the story is just how emotionally charged this movie is. Like, it's not just the best acted and directed Paul Thomas Anderson movie, it's also the most emotional by a mile. Like, it is just heartbreaking in moments, and there's quite a few moments here that get to me. I'll touch on some of them in just a bit, but I really do think this movie has a profound effect. And thematically, like, this movie is trying to do so much, and it just nails everything. It's about broken people and how they've gotten to that point and how they're dealing with the pain. It's about our need for love and compassion. It's about the weight one carries throughout their life and how things that happen to them as a kid, they never move past. It's about how in order to grow as a person, you have to be willing to look back. And it's about how when we get closer to death, we become more reflective and how that moment will come for us all. It's about the universal nature of the human condition, and I just think this movie does all of that so incredibly well. To try to break down every plot point and every thematic idea would make this a 5-hour long video. But it just encapsulates all these ideas in such a hard-hitting, emotional way. And my favorite part about this movie is that despite all the shit we've seen, it ends on a very hopeful note. Just this man who loves a woman, helping her out, making her feel good, and it ends with a smile. And it's just one of my favorite endings in all of movies. And the song Save Me in that moment is just the cherry on top. It is as perfect as endings get. So I think this movie is just fully a masterpiece. I think it is brilliantly written. I think it is emotional. I think it is insightful. I think it is so incredibly well acted and directed. It is a flawless masterpiece, one of the greatest movies ever made, and I'm giving Magnolia a 9 out of 10. Okay, Magnolia, have you seen it? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, stay tuned for more videos soon, and Gavin, out.